Okay, so today we're going to talk about office etiquette, rules, responsiveness, manager must do specifics. I'm Jennifer. I'm one of the portfolio managers, and I work with several assistants, amazing assistants, on several projects. So let's start with office etiquette. Office etiquette is simply defined as basic manners in the world of business. It's important to have because it cuts down on stress and conflict between coworkers, which ultimately can affect the company's success. So what does etiquette look like at Collins? These were the things that I thought of that I remembered from my training. And that was basically, if it's empty, refill it. Copier machine, Keurig, little K-cups, silverware, anything, if it's empty, just try to refill it. If supplies are running low, you'll want to send Sue Meters an email. It's easier for her to remember things if there's an email. Make sure to clean up after yourself, wipe down messes, do your dishes. Be mindful of obnoxious odors like fish or overdoing it with your perfume or cologne in the morning. Always remember people are working and try to keep your voice at a dull roar. It's hard sometimes to remember, but people will let you know, and everybody has a different level of tolerance. Don't forget your COVID practices. Wash your hands, sanitize, wear your mask when you aren't at your desk, and for the love of peanut butter, don't come to work if you're sick. So office etiquette is essentially respecting your colleagues, ensuring a pleasant and productive work environment, being respectful and courteous to everyone at all times, treating your colleagues with the same level of respect you would expect yourself. Easy peasy. Rules. A lot of the official rules are in your dress code, things like that are in your employee handbook. And they're also in the manager must do's, which we're going to cover much of that in the next slides. Some things that you just learn as you go. Be sure to ask questions. I have never met a more supportive team in all of my career. There's a lot of people that are very willing to help. It's amazing. One of my personal tips that I wanted to offer was to make it a point to read those documents like every 3 to 6 months as a refresher. That helps keep what the standards are for this company at the forefront of your mind. And this training helps me do that.
Okay.
So one of the number one rules for Collins is responsiveness. Collins management policy is to respond to all communications within 24 hours. That includes inter-office communications between Collins employees. Sometimes, and I'm sure you've heard this, just simply sending an email saying I received it, I'll answer you in this amount of time or as soon as I can. Sometimes that simple email goes a long way. Not responding at all within 24 hours is not acceptable at all. So we're going to jump into the manager must do's. I sent you the packet just before the training, which you have in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk first about what the purpose is for these guidelines. And just like the picture, they're the pillars of what the company's been built on. They are things that Paul and Sharon have done over time that work, and they've compiled this together so that it can provide training, competent employees, continuity, information sharing. It creates a flat corporate structure, helps with growth, support, and provides advancement for the employees. So that's the reason that these guidelines were put together and presented at the beginning of your time at Collins. All right, so there's managers in training and manager assistants. So what are they and what do they do? Manager in training essentially is support staff. That is their primary means of training. and then they launch off into becoming a manager. Manager assistants act as a permanent long-term assistant to managers. So that's what those are. Standard duties of a manager in training and a manager assistant. Very standard. Clerical, secretarial, customer support, distributing and writing letters, processing work orders, routine calls, emails, faxes if people still do that, logistical support for large projects such as scheduling. Sometimes you'll support by answering phones, which I believe you do, and assisting office manager, which is Sue. So you will likely have to attend some board meetings and check in guests, take minutes, distribute the agendas, help at annual meetings with ballots. You may, after the meetings, you'll process routine punch list items that arise from the meetings. So, but wait, there's more. It's not an all-inclusive list. There's things that come up that the manager may need help with. It's important to have an open line of communication with your manager and ask questions as things come up. So let's talk about growth at Collins for managers in training. I know you're an assistant, but should you ever decide that you want to launch off of that and become a manager,
Mm-hmm.
there is room for that growth. And I like the system that Collins has in training managers before they just dump an entire portfolio on them. So
Okay.
manager in trainings are assigned new accounts as their training progresses. As they take on more accounts, their function as an assistant will decrease as determined by the company. So you'll go from like a manager in training, and then you go into a junior community association manager, and then you move up to a regular manager. That's sort of the system. And that's, of course, that growth and that process is all determined by Paul. All right, so these are the next 3 slides that are going to have an immense amount of content. So I'm going to breeze through some of the main points, but I encourage you to definitely dial down and read them on your own as well. These are the expectations for managers in training and manager assistants. I think a lot of these things are good for managers as well, but we'll get started. First of all, you want to block off chunks of time, preferably the same time every day. So like emails and voicemails, 2 to 4, and then punch lists from 4 to 5, just blocking off chunks of time. Try to do the little tasks first and then focus on 2 or 3 large projects. That helps.
Okay.
Punch lists should be updated within 24 hours after the board meeting. Minutes should be done no more than 2 minutes, or 2 minutes, 2 business days. Do them 2 minutes after the meeting. But they should be done at least no later than 2 days after the meeting. Depending on your ability, and you can bring a laptop with you. I like to do my minutes as the meeting's going along because then they're done. But if you don't have that ability, then make sure to take really good notes, and when you get back, power them out. Board packets need to be done 7 days before the date of the meetings. Don't wait until the last minute. I have a physical calendar, but a lot of people use the Google Calendar, and it's good to set those, timelines on your calendar so that you want to have your agenda to the manager within 10 days. You want the board packet to be ready at least 7 to 8 days so that you can send it to the manager to look at, whatever process you have worked out with them. But it's just mostly good to put it on a calendar to keep track of all of it. Make sure when you go to the meetings to bring everything that you need, your agendas, highlighters, pens, sign-in sheets. Make sure you have all of that with you. Bring a binder with the board package in it. That way you're not shuffling through papers. I know before we did the shelter in place and we did Zoom meetings, many of my assistants like Julie and Sarah and Debbie would give me a copy of the board package with 3-hole punch so I could just slide it into my binder. It helps a
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
And then I can tab it and I don't look like I'm lost in the meeting. You just want to make sure you're prepared. So I created a checklist too. That helps.
Sure.
Work orders, non-urgent, should be done within 24 hours. Emergencies obviously are done immediately. Use Boomerang to follow up if you need to.
Okay.
It's actually a very, very good tool. Responsiveness, like I said, is one of the most important things. Things need to be responded to within 24 hours. Prioritize your emails, declutter your inbox, don't let them sit there. Skip ones that involve more time and energy. Archive and file mails that need to be dealt with. You just always want to keep your inbox clean. For me, I'm pretty religious about that. I block off my first 2 hours in the morning and I power through the easy emails first, and then I hit up the longer ones. And if it's something that I need to research or spend more time on, I'll keep a list of those things or I'll boomerang it and dial down on it. But I at least respond and let them know I'm going to look into this and get back to them within a day or two.
Okay.
Violation letters should be issued timely, but not more than 5 days. Certain
Okay.
expectations by certain managers, every HOA is different. Punch list should be viewed, prioritized, and updated at least once a month. Punch lists I typically do, that was fun. I typically do,
I'm all like, wait, was that someone calling me? No, it's you.
yeah. So typically after the meeting, I'll come in and I won't do anything. I won't check email. I won't do anything. I'll just get right into doing the minutes, and then I'll do the punch list and I'll nail out 90% of what is on that punch list. This helps because, especially if it's a monthly meeting, then I get everything done on the front end and all I'm doing is follow up in between the meetings. And
Sure.
when you're putting the board packages together, or you're not spending a whole lot of time playing catch up. So
Okay.
that's violation. Okay, action item communications should be responded to within 24 hours. Address things, by priority indicated by your manager. You get to know each manager and their behaviors, and you start to just kind of go with your own gut. That's totally understandable. I'm
Okay.
sure you've gotten familiar with the current folder. It used to be a hard file when I first started, but since we've moved more digitized, um, if you receive a bid or if you receive an email or something that's going to need to be on the agenda, or if your manager sends you something and says, hey, this needs to be on the agenda, just save it in the current file
Mm-hmm.
and create a file for the date of the meeting. That way, when you go to put your board package together, everything is there.
Sure.
Make sure to ask questions for clarifications. Managers should welcome and encourage questions, and we do. Again, it's a great team here, and they're always happy to help and train. Make sure to communicate your workload and your constraints. So if you're struggling or you're just a little overloaded that week, or maybe, your kid's giving you the hard time in the morning and you're struggling, just communicate that with the manager so that they kind of can adjust the expectations too. The worst thing to do is not let them know what's going on, because then when it's too late, we become shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And every manager I know at Collins is very understanding and willing to, be supportive and work as a team.
Sure.
Ensure important documents are retained digitally or paper. Ensure files and workspaces are decluttered promptly. Um, Use communication history and work order features in Condo. Always remember to under-promise and over-deliver.
Okay.
So, and we're going to, of course, go into the manager must-dos. But those are the expectations for the managers in training and assistants. But like I said, I think it's good stuff for the managers too.
Mhm.
Okay, manager must-dos. So the manager must-dos, one of the first things is to adhere to the CACM Code of Professional Ethics at all time. We sign a document that says that we will. Um, I think it should be not just professional, but personal. Keep your work, we should keep our workspace organized and free of clutter. Um, I learned from my first manager when I was in leasing that you should work on one project at a time. If you're working on one thing, that should be what's on your desk. If you start working on something else, put it away and take that paperwork out. This way you stay focused and organized.
Okay.
I color code things because it makes it fun.
Sure.
So the next thing, as I said, using binders and folders, keeping board packets organized. You want to make sure that your board packets are sent to the board no less than 6 days before the meeting. They need to have time to look it through. Even if they aren't reading it, you've at least given them the opportunity.
Sure.
The business day immediately following the meeting, you should be meeting with your manager, and the manager should be meeting with you to debrief and go over the punch list. With things the way that they are right now, the best thing to do is either a Ring Central meeting or just a quick phone call, just to go over anything that you have questions about or making sure that you're clear on what you're doing.
Mhm.
Minutes need to be done within 2 days of the meeting. Good to pre-prep. Julie has a great, or Julie and some of the other assistants use the expanded agenda. I don't know if anyone showed you that, but it's basically the agenda with 5 or 6 spaces in between, and you just take notes by hand.
Okay. Okay.
Keep punch lists up to date and utilize it as an organizational tool. It's good to keep notes. Every manager uses somewhat the same format, but they use it as the punch list as a different tool, but it's an amazing communication tool between the assistants and the manager. Make
Mhm.
sure, like I said, to get as much of it, if not 90%, within a few days of the meeting. And there it is again, respond to all communications within 24 hours, even if you don't have an answer. Ensure the calendars for Gmail are up to date and accurate. Um, After a meeting, the best thing to do is make sure if the meeting was scheduled at that meeting that you put that on the calendar and send an invite to the manager. What's also helpful is to send an invite to the board. If it's a regular occurring meeting, you can set that up on the Google Calendar as well. I think it's great to invite the board to do that as well so they can keep it on their calendar.
Okay.
Other things to keep on the calendar is like election results, ballots, meeting notices, things like that. The Echo Journal and the Vision Magazine are very helpful tools in keeping you up to date with what's going on in the industry. And it also can put things in a way that help you explain something you might not clearly understand using
Yeah.
somebody else's words. Make sure to always be available in the event of an emergency. Have access to your email, voicemail, and important association documents. Collins has a lot of really good systems in place where you can walk around with your computer basically in your hand. Um, Update your calendar with your schedule and your whereabouts. I'm sure you've been shown how to say, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm at. Make sure to
Mhm.
organize, and that's in here somewhere, but make sure to organize your um, inbox so that you have filters. Christian's really good about showing you how to do that. She showed me how to do that so that you're
Okay.
not getting a bunch of lunch. I'm going to lunch now. And
Okay.
this is my schedule. I have that under a different tab.
Okay.
When you're on call, when you eventually get into the calendar, you want to make sure that the manager is promptly receiving information on the emergency call. If by the next day, if you're not coming until late the next day, maybe just shoot the email out the night before. Of course, keep proper record retention procedures. We're digitizing everything, so just save, 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 save. Um, Make sure to bring up pertinent issues at staff meetings. And the info sheet is very important. I'm sure you've seen that. It's a sort of the hub of where all the basic information for the HOA is. As an assistant, one of the best things that you can do in support of your manager is if something about the building comes up, like when the backflow certification is due, or the elevator certification, or where is the breaker box. That kind of information is great to have on your info sheet, so that if somebody's on call, they can find it. Or if you and the manager win the lottery and are sitting on a beach, anybody can easily take over the account and follow along.
Okay.
Okay, the next and last of the long slides is the Collins management culture of communication, intra-office communication, and email management advice. So this is essentially written by Paul, so you see a lot of I statements in here. So he's saying this is what works, and it's all good advice. So our policy is sort of a pattern to respond to all communications within 24 hours. This includes the intra-office communications between employees. So for example, if a senior manager sends a request to a manager in training or an assistant manager, you want to at least let them know that you received it and when you're going to get it done. And bottom line is, communication is king in this organization. It is okay to be busy. It is okay to communicate your business, but it's not okay to not respond promptly. Most of it comes down to email management and time management. There's, of course, no shortage of books, blogs, and online videos on how to go about this. So here are some of the things that he suggests in the recommendation. Do your email in blocks, an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. You don't want to get caught up in like an email chat back and forth, because then you're just inviting more email. Boomerang is an indispensable tool. You can, if you want to respond promptly, you can delay the response to go out at least 20 hours. That way you don't get stuck into an email chat. And if it's something that you want, to kind of get out of your inbox, but know that you need to get back to it, just boomerang it. Just if it's going to be more than 24 hours before you respond, just make sure you let the email person that you're talking to know that. Follow the board member email ban within reason. Train your boards. And that's, as hard as it is possible to just train them to keep the conversations out of email and in the board meetings. And don't let your inbox fill up, because when you come in the morning and you've got 100 emails, things could get missed. Either deal with it or boomerang it. If you're done with it, file it away in archive or whichever method you prefer. Be mindful when you reply all or when you don't. Punctuation and grammar count. Grammarly is amazing software. They have a plugin for Gmail that's Grammarly. I can show you how to put that in if you haven't figured that out. It's super simple.
I haven't.
It's important.
It's my best friend.
It is. Get to know Gmail in all its glory. It has a lot of tools. Like I said before, make sure to enable your tabs. I have used the delay so many times. It's a setting, it's part of your settings. And if you set it at the 10 seconds, it's when you hit send and you see that you put something in there that you shouldn't have, or you miss putting the attachment, you can quickly go to the bottom left and hit undo, don't send. But it's always after you've hit send that you realize that.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
those are tips for your email.
Yeah.
So the next topic we're going to talk about is your compensation. This is for managers in training, junior CAMs, and manager assistants. Your compensation is based on workload, experience level, time with the company, certifications, quality of work, your attitude, your sense of teamwork, um, the accounts you manage directly. Compensation can change. It can be set by a case-by-case basis when there's a change. And of course, there's the extra billing, which we'll talk about. Compensation for managers is based on a percentage of the base fees, and it's this formula that Paul has, and it increases over time with certain factors like yearly budget increases, taking on new accounts or replacing smaller properties with larger properties. Managers also doing extra billing, and also managers can take on executive areas like training, which wouldn't be mine, and information technology, marketing, things which would be mine. Favorite, I love marketing. And then like Christian, she does training for strong, was a condo manager actually, and Michael does the IT, and then of course there's office morale. Christian does that as well. So those are some executive areas of responsibility that managers do. Extra billing. Paul was talking about this in the meeting the other day. We're entitled to receive 45% of all extra billing of management fees. And so this particular paragraph is in your contract. You always want to read your contract and be familiar with your contract. As an assistant, as a manager, everything that you're doing for your board is built on what's in the contract. This paragraph explains, what an extra service is. It's got, depositions, processing insurance losses, large projects that are out of the norm, not your run-of-the-mill scheduling a fire inspection. It's major painting of the building or SB 800 construction defect type things. $60 per half hour. Support staff is $35 per half hour. And I believe it's turned in every quarter. Some managers, I think, I've seen some do it more frequently than that. But that's a great way to make extra income for manager assistants and managers. Yes, you have your base pay, and it's how we really are able to keep our monthly base fees low. So the extra billing is really where it's at. So the work from home policy, I put that this section is under construction because I want these tiles to sort of go with the test of time. And right now, with COVID, the work from home policy is sort of changing as the Contra Costa Health Department is changing. So right now, I believe it's, the assistants are in the office so many days, managers are in the office so many days. So you just want to ask Paul or Sue for the most recent updated policy. Same goes for the flex. Salaried managers get flex time. So if they do, because we're salary, if we do a meeting in person, then it is 2 hours for every meeting. And I'm sure they have a separate training for this as well, but the flex request form is very descriptive and helpful too. But right now, I think we have, if you're doing a Zoom call meeting, it is a fraction of the 2 hours. But like I said, that's also changing under the COVID and as things hopefully open up soon.
Yes.
So overtime, this is applicable to manager assistants. In short, they don't like it, don't do it, manage your time, and if it's necessary or if it's just unavoidable, make sure to get permission from Sue. It's when it's allowed, it's 1.5 times the wages, only after you've worked 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week. All right, so that's the end. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I've provided my information, which I'm sure you have, but I want to make sure you know I'm always available if you want to shoot me a text and, where is this? Because sometimes you're like, I don't want to seem stupid, or like, I don't know where this is. Um,
Sure.
I don't think anybody at the company is judgmental of that for anyone who is new. It takes a while to get familiar with your surroundings, um, and we've all been there. So please, please do not hesitate to ask for questions or ask us questions. So do you have any questions about the massive amount of slides and information I just gave you?
No, not at this time. It was very informative. I liked your little pictures. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been here almost 2 months now, so like this is information that like I feel helps me. Like, I mean, I kind of knew it, but it just helps me reiterate what I need to do. So I appreciate it.
Well, and it's a good foundation. It's something to always go back to. And over time, we get into like routines, or we plug in things we think we know, because there's a gap of remembering what we're supposed to do. So it's always good to come back to the foundational information and remind yourself. So I do encourage you to even read these again in 2 months, because it's a whirlwind of information when you first start and you're like, I'm sorry, what was condo manager? And, what am I supposed to do? And I thought it was 48 days before I had to respond. You
Yeah.
know, it's just refreshing your mind, so that remember the fundamentals.